work on your grammar and thesis statement problems to improve your writing. I told you you could email me your drafts, and then I would stay up late after grading tons of papers and give you feedback on it. But you never did any of these things to improve your grade. I was planning on doing extra credit. I don't offer extra credit. So, what are my chances then for passing your class? I don't have my graph book with me, but based on what you have just told me, you don't have a chance at all of passing my class. You only passed 1 out of 4 essays, didn't turn in the majority of your homework, and left the final early to make a phone call rather than finishing the test. Not only have you barely done any work this semester, you never once tried to get help or improve your grade. That's not true. I just asked to do extra credit, and you won't let me. You are a terrible teacher. I'm going to write a bad review of you on the Rate My Teacher website.
Okay, so if you did the quiz that was due last night and submitted it before what time? 10 o'clock or so? How long? Was it 10 o'clock? Yeah, but he graded some of them already. I think he graded the ones that were submitted by 10 o'clock. So if you submitted after 10 o'clock, but before midnight, you're still on time. It just hasn't been graded yet. But some of you got your grades back. Somebody, what time is this class over? 11:50, which is how many minutes from now? 49 minutes from now. I would like to talk about that for 5 minutes at the end of class, but not at the beginning of class. So how many minutes is that from now? 44? 44 minutes.
Okay. 44
All right,
minutes
perfect.
and counting.
My wrist will vibrate when it's time. Okay, what's today going to be about? Victoria. Okay, good. Just checking. There was one term actually, and so and there was somebody that is the lighting okay? Can everybody see? Okay, perfect. There was one term that I was very proud of myself. I've been teaching this class for almost 15 years now, couple 2-3 times a year. So I've done these lectures a few times. And there's one term I was very proud of myself, and I decided I was not going to use any PowerPoint slides because I don't know what you guys, but I get tired watching PowerPoint slides. And so I decided I was going to do every lecture on the blackboard and write all the stuff. I'll start the class by asking the people in the room, "Hey, what's today's class about?" It turns out I learned at the end of the term when I looked at the course evaluation forms, they thought I didn't know. Because all the comments were like, the professor comes to class, he doesn't even know what the class is supposed to be about. And I was just showing off. I was like, you can tell me what today's class is about and I could do the lecture. So I don't show off anymore. There are PowerPoint presentations, or I use Google Slides, but whatever. There are presentations for every lecture. I will use some of the slides from the presentation. All of the slides are there for your reference when you're going back and doing quizzes and things like that, so you may want to look at them. I will try to talk about all of the concepts that are covered in the slides, but I don't like to do death by PowerPoint, so I probably won't do a lot of that. With that said, the next series of slides has animations. This animation starts with a white screen. Here I have a favorite car manufacturer. Like I know, like when I was growing up, my dad was a Chevy guy, so therefore I had to be a Chevy guy. People have a favorite car manufacturer? Few of you do, okay. Does everybody think they understand what quality means? Who uses the word quality in a sentence almost every day? A significant number of us use the word quality, or some choices. Mercedes-Benz, Kia, or Chevrolet. Like Mercedes, it is on the slide, right? Chevy should go to the middle. You guys become distinct. Groups separate there. Get more distinct. Okay, that's close enough. Close enough. All right. So you guys are all Kia. The most expensive Mercedes on the slide, didn't I? I mean it's there. That's why? Oh, you don't have your. I should have made you take your name cards with. Why? You heard that it's better. Okay. Why? Okay. And somebody in the red shirt in the middle. Why? You're the reddest shirt. Okay. Okay. Those are all good answers. Power said Kia had the highest quality. Mercedes had the lowest quality out of this grouping. Kia, I guess. So I got a Mercedes move to Chevy, but not all the way to Kia. You couldn't take the leap that.
Per 100 vehicles. What I'm kind of interested in, what problems cost more?
And what was your name?
Ryan.
Ryan. Okay, Ryan. As soon as everybody sits back down in their seat, we're gonna go with Ryan. It says problems per 100 vehicles. JD Power initial quality study, right, to make this decision. They do. They don't necessarily sell it just back to the car manufacturers. How does JD Power get paid? JD Power gets paid by selling the surveys, right? Right? Question. Immediately, when I see data like this, I got a question. What was the motivation to create the data? And what are the inherent biases in this data? Is anybody willing to believe that the person who spent 10 times more on a car, it's possible that a number of those Mercedes complaints were because the car cost 10 times as much as the Kia? I actually don't know if you can still do 10 times. What's a... That was just a bad year for the Mercedes. All right. So no, that was a good data point, which I didn't know. I'm going to use that next time I use this slide. So do we know what quality is? Emily, what's quality? So Emily wants to define it based on certain references. Is that fair? So quality for, and this study is initial quality, right? What do you got, Ryan?
I'd say for quality for cars, my definition of higher quality is less money I have to throw at it.
Less money that you have to throw at it to maintain it. Yeah. How much does a car cost? Now, when I was a college student, I could tell you the number, how much a car costs, because I had experience. Because I had been, by the time I was a freshman in college, I had been through a lot of cars. Because my method was to buy the cheap car and drive it until I couldn't keep fixing it anymore, and then go buy another cheap car, right? Because I'm sort of a cash consumer. I don't want to have debt on something that wears out, like a car. So, yeah, life rule. Don't pay more for a car than you can make in a month. If you can't make that much money in a month, don't buy the car. I used to figure that a car cost about $1,000 to $2,000 a year. And I could drive wherever I wanted to go for about $2,000 a year. Now, if I bought a $4,000 car, I would expect it to run for 2 years before I had to replace it with minimal maintenance. If I bought a $500 car, I would expect to spend another $1,500 a year on it in order to get it where I was going to go. So that was sort of my rule of thumb for how much a car should cost. Beyond that, it's just luxury and frills. Okay, so we have different definitions because I was willing to be going 70 miles an hour down the highway and have the car shut off. Right? Same thing. More altitude you have in the airplane, when the airplane shuts off, the more choices you have. Okay, so quality means different things in different situations. That's what Emily tells us. I think we can all agree with Emily that quality means different things in different situations. Is that fair? What does quality mean in manufacturing? Conformity. I'm going to try document camera to the other one. So this one I want the PC. This one I want the document camera. And I'm probably going to have to turn some lights on to make the document camera work. Look, it's focused. Okay, so say it was Kyle, right? Say again.
So like conformity to standards that you made, or like the geometric columns and stuff like that made before.
Quality equals
Yeah.
So you said standards. I'm gonna put that. So I'm going to say that quality of manufacturing requires all of these words, but maybe not in that order. Go ahead, Griffin.
Well, I would say this wouldn't exactly be the case all the time, because like the existing goal in manufacturing something could have been make this as cheaply as possible.
Oh, all right. So you're saying that a goal might be cheap. And if it's cheap, it can't have quality? Is that the conclusion we draw?
I would say that quality is how well
we meet what does it take to get an A and an MQP at WPI? What does
At
the
least the difference between A and B, they distinguishes either meeting or exceeding expectations.
exactly to get an A, you must exceed expectations. Now there's a gray area who gets to set the expectations, and it depends. If it exceeds expectations, that's a crappy MQP. That gets an A. Right? A quality MQP meets the expectations. You can do that with a C. And by the way, C's get degrees. What do you got?
I would say quality is creating the standards based on customer preferences.
Quality, you say quality is creating the standards so creating and conforming. And I'm going to say that it requires that. Yes.
It's the quality is its ability to meet the stated or possibly like implied needs of the customer.
Ability to, so can I just put ability above ability to create and meet? Okay, ability to. Oops. Ability also, ability to. Okay. And so ability to create or conform with standards that are agreed upon. Yeah. It's Trisha. Couldn't see the last couple letters. So certainly one of these standards is likely to be delivery time. Right. And so, and that goes with MQPs also, right? You could do a great MQP if you hand it in after the due date, then you're not going to graduate. Your thing's upside down. Visit Benjamin.
The standards are usually agreed upon before manufacturing, like.
It is way cheaper if they're agreed upon before you do the manufacturing. That's true. I have a story about that if we have time. Go ahead. So consistency. And when you say at a high level, you mean that has a lot of importance, right? Or do you mean sort of in broad senses? It's like all the children in Lake Wobegon. Anybody? No NPR listeners? Where all the children are above average?
I was gonna say that you also have to agree upon tolerances, decide how far away from.
Right, so and whose job is it? So you guys know what tolerances are? Raise your hand if you could come up here and write a definition for tolerances on the board. I might call on you. Just two of you? You're gonna say, all right, it's Rowan and what's your name? Matt. Okay, you guys get like bonus points for today because you were willing to raise your hand. Matt, what's tolerance?
Plus or minus in production.
It could be only plus or only minus.
Yeah.
Why? Who said the tolerance thing first? You didn't raise your hand about wanting to define it though. All engineers, is that right? Right. Whether we have a degree or not, if you're intending to be an engineer, then you're an engineer now. There's in any industry, in any Russell Brunson, he calls it technobabble. So technobabble, those are the technical words that we as engineers, and you would fake understanding it. If I was telling a joke about the first law of thermodynamics, you would totally laugh when everybody else laughed. Especially if we're a designer or a manufacturer. Now, and you had it right, Matt. So tolerances are. Why, David, do we have to have tolerances?
Because
right, there will and even if our process was perfect, therefore the designers have to understand that. And so, by the way, anybody?
Delivering to the customer what they want when they want.
Pretty close. She missed by a word. Quality in manufacturing. So very split it to them late. And that's actually something that help with your project. After which this is no longer important. Maybe the date that ECDRs are due if it's your MQP, right? You know, knowing that can be important, but that's not usually good enough, right? Because you usually want to anybody not mechanical engineering senior. What's your major? Not ME, ECE. Or you very likely might make something in the.
Parts, like vintage machines that I can't find.
By the way, when you get over to the labs, talk to Ian.
Ian?
Yeah. He also. Anyway, frequently when people come to the shop, they're not MEs. Their project is not about them making something. Their project is about using something that has been made. So making it by the ECDR deadline, important dates there. All right. So I said quality is giving the customer what they need when they need. Julia.
Satisfying their conditions or want.
Like I want to buy an espresso.
No, it's not that either. Well, customers can want impossible. What they need and what they want are often not the same thing. Historically, when you go to the machine shop or you go to the manufacturing company, especially engineer or whatever, it's your company, you're the one that's going to have to go get the stuff made. right? They're going to say, design this thing, go talk to, because Braden's going to go down there, be up and down, because he's a cool new graduated engineer. He's like, Joe, I want to have this thing. And he's got this, you know what they call you? I mean, and there's excitement. It's like the first day of A term. By the way, I love the first day of A term because everybody's awake in class. Braden's going to go down there and he's going to say, Joe, this is what I need. Joe's going to look at it and he's going to kind of chuckle. He'll exactly what Brandon asked for, especially if he knows it won't work. Is that true? They're going to make you exactly what you asked for, especially if they know it doesn't work. If they don't like you. Man, engineering schools are getting really bad at training engineers. And we don't do a good job of it at all. Because you design things that can't be made. You design things with conflicting tolerances. I got a drawing in once. It's pretty cool. There was a complex software. We call that a fillet, right? And there's a call out, or I think it was 0.020, and so we were in inches probably. We'll say it was in inches. Actually, the one I'm thinking of was dimension metric, but whatever. 0.020, and then plus or minus. Drawings come like that all the time from kids with CAD. Now, why did they choose plus or minus 0.020? Because that's what they use. Now, when we can't deliver quality because of this, so what did the customer need there? Now, why did they need the fillet? We don't know. We might have to ask them at this point. So should I shoot for the top end between those two? That could seriously impact the performance of that piece. It didn't interact with something that was down there in that corner, right? Here, what I'm mostly talking about is I'm mostly talking about high mix manufacturing. So the kind of stuff that would happen this part, 5 of this part, and you flow those through your manufacturing facility. So I'm not talking about mass production here, beginning, because our class is primarily about prototype manufacturing. And we do prototype manufacturing at this. We look for things like that on the drawings. And we try to understand, one, can I make this part? So as the manufacturer now, if I cannot make this part, what do I do? I have 2 choices, right? I could say, we're not going to make it. That's one choice. But you this, we can make it. Now, if I've got the job to make it, can I make it even? You send me your stuff all the time, and you send, yeah. I could subcontract it out, or that I still own the quality to my customer. First, we look at the drawing, things to make in this part. Now, if you have a good relationship, talk to the customer. Now, not all customers are receptive to talk to the engineer. For those guys, you just got to make the part they asked for. So the designer, even if the designer and the manufacturer work for the same company, or Janet can make the part. Yeah, Zach.
Like if you've given a slate and you're just cutting holes in it, you don't need to.
If you've given me a casting that has features existing on it, as long as I'm, because that's just for my, it's just so I can orient the part right. About half of you, quarter of you, third of you anyway. And so what does it mean?
Over-defined something.
Right, over-defined, over-constrained thing. You can't dimension one thing from, it's nice to add a reference dimension for the don't get tolerances, because the tolerance is in the main dimension. So as the manufacturer, you have to watch out every little part, right? Do you think they do an experiment to figure out? So if you didn't, so there's one way to figure out what the right figure out tolerances on some of the parts you're going to be. So what do we use? Table. So there's tables, and we're going to, for example, if you have a pin that needs to slide through a hole, right? So you can look up in charts. What do you use when you don't want to do the experiment. No, I could do it right and still not go look it up, which is better than just a wild ass guess, right? Because there's science in it. Everybody has engineering judgment. It's not all equal, right? The more ability to create, deliver quality to the customer. How do we know when we have file? If the Q side. Is ship it. So we know we have. And what do they measure? Yeah. You say hopefully all of them. For me to make it, every dimension needs to be on the drawing, right? I mean, so what they mean is we're going to send you an electronic file and you never have to print it on paper. And it's possible in CAD software. It's a pain in the butt when they do that if you're the manufacturer, because you want to have something at the machine tool that you can look at that tells you the tolerances. Go. Go back.
It won't be all the measurements or all the dimensions, but it'll be set, like specific key measurements that they're gonna work for.
Matt wants to measure some key. The customer might give us a measurement report that we have to fill out for those parts. And they're going to say, measure this, 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 and this, and tell us for every part. They may do that. Yes.
Also, it's not normally all the parts.
Or if it's the first item through the line, then we call that first article inspection. Inspection, I probably won't measure all of the dimensions. I'm going to look at the tolerances. And I'm also going to think about, so there's the outside of my part. There's some features inside my part. And so this is the outside of the part. There's a pocket in the part. So critical dimension on this part might be the circle that touches those 3 points. I have to talk to you about the quiz thing. Let's just finish this. So it's hard to measure, depending on your measurement tool, it could be hard to measure that circle. But it may be very easy. If I could measure this diameter and this thickness, this is correct, then this is probably correct. Right? So there's other ways to do that measurement. Quiz, right? Okay. Couple questions that were interesting on the quiz. Question number 2. So what was question number 1? Anybody remember? I probably should have said read and understand. What was the purpose of question number 2? To see if you read the syllabus. Number 1, right? There may have been some confusion. But what do you do if an assignment is late? Didn't yet hand in the quiz, and many of you didn't. You can still hand it in today and get 10% of, so you get only 0.5 points. So do the quiz if you didn't do it yet. How do you avoid the penalty? Yes, Matt. Somebody that didn't raise their hand. Wait, no, Ryan, go ahead. How do I get an oops?
How you what?
Oops, I screwed up, didn't do the homework. All right, you said you got the next one? Emergency. What drastic? You know, if you showed enough emotional distress, I'd be willing to accept hamster. Do something about it, right? So it could be less important than a family member dying, but you know, more than just oops, I didn't screw up. I chose to do without points off. And then medical. If you tell me that you were sick in the hospital for 3 days every week, I'm going to want to see the letter from health services. If it's just once, I'm going to just believe you. Go.
What if you had a place like urgent care? Like
I'm not going to go check on you. I'm not going to go dig up the grave and see if there's actually a hamster in there. But hi, filling out the Google form. And so if you got like 0.1, a couple of you, no? Somebody else was here at the beginning. Maybe they left. I could have just talked to you at the beginning then. Afternoon. If that doesn't work, then come talk to me and I'll see if there's any accommodation we can make. No, you got a manual process. It's not automatic, so they can't say it happens at 3 o'clock. I think it's like at 3 o'clock they start opening classes.
I have to leave the wait list.
No, there's no more wait first. If that doesn't work, and then if that doesn't work, I may be able to get you in, but I don't know for sure.
Parts for a robot that I was designing for a first robotics project.
Okay,
And so I had a part that looked kind of like this guy. I gave it to him.
you can make that.
A guy comes around the corner with the drives, my boss name's Gary, and he goes, Matt, the channel out. They
Right.
didn't have that. So they
Yeah.
redesigned-
But there was a way.
yeah, they
Could have sent it
ended
to
up,
somebody with EDM.
they ended up cutting this. But I never I was a senior in high school, so I never thought
Yeah.
about that.
Well, that's-
stuff.
That's why we talk about it here.